Hello, Stratis. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. How are you managing during all of this?
Well, it's interesting. It's almost surreal. We had a thriving business, and we were all excited that January and even February was 80% over last year. So we were like, riding on cloud nine, and then all of a sudden we weren't.
Right.
And when we had to close the restaurant, it was very it was a bomb. A bomb exploded on us, and we weren't really a delivery takeout restaurant. That's not what we're designed for. We're more fine dining, but we were always doing deliveries and takeout. We were always doing, we were actually doing room service at a couple of the high rises next to us. We were actually doing room service with a tray and the saran wrap over the glassware, china, silverware, glassware. And we were always trying to reinvent ourselves or reinvent the delivery takeout game. We were doing like hotel room service to all the, actually 3 high rises around us. And that was actually pretty good. That was probably most of the business we were doing on the takeout delivery realm. So what we said at that time is, what do we do? We have 65 employees, 40, I'd say, are part-time, 25 are full-time. So we decided at that point that we were going to continue with takeout and delivery, even though we knew we would be losing money. And then we, coincidentally, parallel to this, I had to go to New York Presbyterian emergency room for something non-related. I have asthma, so something was bothering me. So I went there, and they couldn't see me. I was actually in the emergency room for 10 hours for something that should have took 30 minutes. And that was like the week before we closed. And that's the first time I ever saw anything with coronavirus. I had read about it. I really didn't understand it. This is probably late February and early March. And I asked the nurse, what is going on over there? She's like, oh, we're getting our first influx of corona patients. And I'm like, wow, what is that? She's like, it's a virus. I said, is it contagious? She's like, yeah, it's going to be pretty bad. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. But I watched for 10 hours how these heroes were basically, basically sleeping with their elbows on the counter. Because I was there till 10 in the morning when I got in there. Like literally, I got there around midnight, and I stayed till 10 in the morning, and I watched it all firsthand. And this is before the big waves came. This is the start of it. So at that point, my partner Dave Thomas and Robert Cummings and I sat down fast forward after we closed, and we said, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit here with self-pity, and are we going to do something, and so we could say, hey, we did something during this crisis. We did something impactful. And at that time, the suggestion was, and the thing in the back of my head was, watching all this medical care, how they were working that night. I said, let's just start doing dinners. Let's just start doing packages every night. You know what? We're getting crushed financially. What's the difference? A little more pain is not going to make a difference, but I believe that little more pain will make a big difference to the frontline heroes. And so what we did was we started sending out packages for like dinners for 10 and 20, and we were walking them over to New York Presbyterian, which is only a block away. And we were leaving it at the security desk. And then one day a nurse saw one of my guys and said, wow, this is so nice of you. And she took it into the emergency room. And then all of a sudden we start seeing it all over Instagram. They start posting it. Thank you, Brooklyn Chop House. Thank you. Thank you. And, and I strongly believe we're not the ones that we want to do charity and expose it, for attention, but they did. And it became, and it was actually felt really good. So to be honest, it felt great, because that was the most amazing thank you, when 20 doctors and nurses and maid staff are holding THANKYOU, literally 20 feet long. And then they post it, thank you. And then it has Brooklyn Chop House bags on the bottom. That's like, oof, that got the chills, that really generated and that brought me to another level of energy. And I said, let's keep going. So we added a couple of more hospitals, but that's all we could fund. We couldn't fund more than, I'd say, 40, 50 dinners a day. That's the most we could do. So what happened was the New York Post did a big story on it and said, these guys are the heroes, and blah, blah, blah. We're not heroes. Not at all. My staff are, because my staff have to travel. Some of them travel an hour by subway and bus to get to work. Those are my heroes, my staff, because you know what? They're feeding the frontliners. And without them, I wouldn't be able to look this good. I wouldn't be able to, they're making me look good. So with that said, then I started getting calls from J. King's. Being that you're a restaurant industry magazine, J. King's called me, Junior's Cheesecake called me, Voss Water, 4-5 Coffee, Forever Young Wines. They all started calling me and say, hey, we want to be a part of this. What can we do? J. King's has been sending me about 1,000 pounds of chicken to 2,000 pounds of chicken every week. They send me probably 100 boxes of produce every week. They send me packaging materials. I didn't even have to ask for it. Junior's Cheesecake to date has probably sent me about 400 cheesecakes. Voss Water has probably sent me 1,000 cases of water. Forever Young Wine, my friend Artie owns the company. They probably sent me 150 cases of wine. And on and on and on and on. Even King Solomon sent me about 500 pounds of steaks. Everybody started donating. So with that said, we started, after the press thing, we started getting a lot of Instagram stuff saying, hey, I work at Columbia University Hospital. I work at Mount Sinai. I work at Elmhurst. I work at Brooklyn downtown. I work at downstate. And we haven't said no to one. We have said yes to every one of them that have reached out. And we to date have probably fed 16 hospitals and police departments. First line police departments that are working overnights. We've been sending food there in the middle of the night. And we're probably about 8,000 meals right now and counting. And we usually have about 3 to 4 or 5 hospitals a day. The only difference is now to protect my staff is, except for New York Presbyterian, which I walk it over, every hospital knows now at 6 o'clock, they come to the restaurant and they pick up and we load up their cars. And it usually feeds around 25, 35 people every shot. So we're probably doing about 1,500 to 2,500 meals a week. And it's been really great because people will call me and say, hey, can we send you some money? I just got $20 from a girl from Las Vegas, a little teenage girl. She sent me a $20 bill and I actually put it on Instagram. I was so touched. She goes, this is for the healthcare workers because I want to contribute.
So you just got $20 in the mail and sent it to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually took a picture. I could send you the picture. It's wonderful.
Sure.
And it's amazing. And I put it on my Instagram. I was really touched. I told my managers to frame it and put it up on the wall because that's a testament to all my staff. You know what? And that's so great that people have been hitting us left and right. But I've made it a conclusion. We don't want money. We're not. People ask, do you have a GoFundMe page? We're not doing that because we know a lot of people are hurting. I'm not a big fan of asking them to put more. I see a lot of restaurants do it. I'm not a big fan of that. If the government can help us, great. But I'm not a big fan of asking the average American citizen, hey, can you give us some money? Everybody's in pain. It just doesn't come natural to me. So we don't do GoFundMe pages. Everybody asks, can we send you money? I said, what you can do is, because all the profits we do, which aren't many, which isn't much, but all the profits we do for takeout and delivery, which we average like $4,000 or $5,000 a day, and that's basically break even. But the few $100s we do make profit, we just throw it into the pot to add another hospital. So that's what we're doing. If there's any profits at the end of the day, we're putting that money into another hospital. We're just putting it right back in. We're not doing profit sharing at this time. That doesn't come natural. Definitely doesn't come natural.
But how are you managing to keep your staff employed if most of what you're doing is giving free food to hospitals and policemen?
Well, we like I said, the GM, our 2 managers are now order takers. Our 5 chefs are there. We have a limited staff, but we continue to pay them. So we actually, the business side of it, we lost tens of thousands of dollars. Hopefully the government will pull through. We've asked for a couple of $100,000 in help. If that comes through, that'll be great. But we're not accepting money from the general public. I just don't feel comfortable doing that.
So you applied for a payroll protection loan?
Yeah, we did, because with that, I could rehire my 40 staffers back. What I like most is that we have, our rent is $37,000. if we could have our rent and utilities and get 20 or 40 staffers back on payroll, that would be great, because we would walk into this when we reopen, because we all know we're going to reopen. I just don't know when. It's probably late in the summer. I think New York will start getting reopening. I think they'll probably start opening the outdoor cafes first, which I think they should allow all restaurants to have outdoor seating at this point. But that's another argument. Once that's done, it would be great to be debt free. Because you know what, for us to reopen this restaurant, we would need $150,000 if we open in July and August. 150 to 250, and that's not even without hiring anyone. That's just paying rent, utilities, and paying your vendors, because everybody has a credit with their vendors, but you got to pay it one day.
Right.
So it's a lot of money to reopen, and a lot of restaurants will not reopen, and that leads to the horror of these publicly traded restaurants accepting government handouts, which they should all be ashamed of themselves. Because I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm 52 years old. My first business, I was 18. And you know what? I've got ex-employees that are now entrepreneurs, and they're calling me for advice. And they're saying, hey, I can't even, I got two kids in diapers. I can't pay the electric at my house, not the restaurant,
Right.
my house, or not the bakery, or not the coffee shop that I opened, or not the stationery store. I can't up my house. And I said, and I even introduced them to bankers. I said, maybe they'll help you. Do this, do that. I'm doing everything I can, putting them with an accountant that could get them through it. To get 50,000, to get 30,000, to get some kind of help where these guys can reopen their business because they have their life savings in it. And then you hear about these. I'm going to be politically correct. These other companies, because I have a lot of four-letter words to add to it, but I won't. But I've been public about it. How dare them, with $105 million on hand, with a $2 billion market cap, how dare them, fill out paperwork for 185 restaurants so they could get under the 500-person cap? They filed, I'll say it, Shake Shack. They filed 185 applications so they could be under the 500 mark. I mean, come on. I mean, if that's not an investigation, if that's not, a form of perjury, they have to sign those documents saying that we are under 500 employees. Yes, every restaurant we open, we have a separate LLC, but it's the same shareholders.
Right.
It's the same trademark. It's the same concept, the restaurant. It's the same model. Who are you fooling? Because you have 185 locations? You guys are going to find a little loophole? And then all of a sudden, all these little mom and pop shops that go looking for their money, they say, oh, this round is done. Wait for the next round. But meanwhile, there's $180 million out there for Ruth Chris, Pogo de Chow, Potbelly, Taco, I forgot the name of the taco place, Shake Shack, Harvard University, the Ritz-Carlton. We'll go further than the restaurant industry. We'll go into hotels, and we'll go Harvard University. They got $60 billion in their endowment. What has gone on? What is happening here? I mean, if that's not a crime, forget it, morally bankrupt. But if that's not a crime, I don't know what is. That's horrible. I even feel guilty of taking, if we applied, I think, for 250 grand. I feel guilty of that. But I have one location.
Right. Yeah, I think the PPPs were intended for people like you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're not, our plans are not to say, hey, let's go to the Bahamas. No, it's to hire our staff back, pay our landlord, pay our utilities. So when we do reopen, we were even talking about like an automated thermometer thing at the front door that you put up on the top, and it takes like 10 people at a time, and it will flash if anyone has fever. These are the things we're going to have to do to reopen. I know there's a place in Europe that's doing it where before they get in the subway, they have to go through a tunnel and they get disinfected with their clothes on. It's a light spray. It doesn't make you wet, but it disinfects your whole persona. Everything disinfects everything from your shoes to your hat. And that's the stuff that we're going to have to start doing if we think we're going to reopen responsibly.
Well, in the meantime, you still have staff, you have your chefs and so on. commuting, as you said, an hour and a half. What are you doing to help ensure their safety as they come to your restaurant?
Well, we just got them in like about a week ago. We designed a new mask. Can I show it to you?
Sure.
I just got them in. Hold on.
Sure.
So I just designed these, and the material is all FDA approved.
Look at that.
So all my waiters, everybody's going to be wearing this. All my cooks are going to be wearing this. Everybody in the restaurant's going to be wearing this.
And that's a little more sociable than a mask. That's a little more sociable than a mask. Like
correct, because now I can talk.
Yeah.
Remember, at the end of the day, a waiter is going to have to talk.
Right.
You know, my managers and hosts are going to have to be able to speak. They can't speak with their mouth completely covered. But this goes down to the breastbone. I mean, there's nothing coming through here. I mean, any kind of spit is like right here.
Right.
There's nothing coming through. I mean, yes, would a mask be even safer? But then you can't take someone's order with a mask on. It's very hard to. We may try to think of something where we can, you know, do like something light, like maybe the ones that start from the neck and they go up. But besides that, this to me is very safe.
And I mean, is there anything that you can do to help them keep safe on their commutes? I mean, social distancing on subways and buses is challenging.
Well, all we do is like, you know, we've had a couple of employees that we found out had fever. Those employees can't come back without a release from the hospital. You know, what else can we do? They're all desperate to get back to work, but we've got to do it responsibly.
Right.
So it's funny, out of 2 employees, I had found out just by social media. They said, "Oh, I'm in bed with, you know, sick. I don't know what I have," and they never got tested. Well, they can't come back to work, and I happen to see it on social media. So anyone that comes back to work now, instead of me guessing, has to go and get a checkup, and that's it. And out of the 20 employees that we have now, 2 that came back, they got tested inconclusive. It could have been a false positive or a false negative. That's enough for me to say, stay home, get better. I can't take the chance of you, you know, spreading this to your fellow workers. So stuff like that is all we could do. You know, I wish we could afford bonuses. We can't. But it is what it is. We're doing everything we can to protect them. We also put plexiglass in the front door with a circle, so all the pickup and to-go orders, they go right through the hole. Nobody comes in the restaurant.
I see. And do you offer paid sick leave to your employees?
We will for the full timers. Of course we will. 2 of my chefs, they're not sick, but they're like essential workers for us.
Right.
And they are they're the ones that, you know, make our food so good. They're just afraid to come out of the house. And one of them, the wife is very ill with cancer. So I told him to stay home and take care of his wife, and he's still getting paid.
And before I forget, what are in these meals that you're giving to the hospitals?
We have done everything from porterhouses to New York strip steaks to salt and pepper shrimp to 3 types of chicken: Beijing, sweet and sour, kung pao, fried rice, bok choy, broccoli, a couple of Junior's cheesecakes that are like double high, forever young wine, 4, 5, 6 bottles, depends on how big the party is. When it's 20, we go 4. When it's 30, we go to 6 bottles of wine. 4 or 5, there's a big coffee basket, so they can make great coffee. And boss gives me a case of water for every order. So I mean, it's really nice because, you know what? Most Americans have not experienced a chop house that's combined with Asian cuisine. And what's really nice is that most healthcare people don't have the time. You know, they work so many hours, don't have the time to experience such a thing. And now they're experiencing it at work. And we are putting a lot of smiles on a lot of faces.
Well, you guys have a bunch of fun menu items. Like I know I've written about the matzo ball soup dumplings, which are great.
Yeah. Well, listen, the dumplings have become a phenomenon. I mean, we never expected it. I come from a Greek diner background. My dad had about 14 restaurants. So people say, how the hell did you get to the pastrami dumpling? I said, well, I'm Greek. My dad at the end of his career had 3 diners. And the bottom line is that I would see a pastrami this big, and I would never eat it because it was so big. It was bigger than my mouth. And then I've had Chinese restaurants for the last 15 years. So I don't know, it came really easy to me where all we're doing is creating another version of flour and water, and we're making like really indulgent, bite-sized morsels. You know, obviously dumplings is a small portion. We're doing little baby sandwiches. Like we're kind of reinventing two subcategories, sandwiches and dumplings, by putting them together. And the Reuben, the bacon cheeseburger, the lamb gyro with the tzatziki dip. It's not like my grandmother's. It is my grandmother's recipe, but she never intended for it to be a dumpling. She wanted it to be with a pita bread.
Right.
But, it's really good on a dumpling.
No, tomato. It's pretty close.
You dip the lamb gyro. We call it gyro in Greek. You dip the lamb gyro inside the tzatziki and you bite it. You're like, wow. So the dumplings have been a phenomenon, and they're probably have made us double our projections the first year. And now we're opening Brooklyn Dumpling Shop. So Brooklyn Dumpling Shop is opening up on, was supposed to open in May, but obviously we're going to open probably August. And that's at First Avenue at St. Mark's Place in Manhattan. And the whole model there is I brought back the automat.
Oh, so it's going to be set up in cubicles for people, or little cubbies.
So yeah, it's like the Horn and Harnett, the old automat restaurant.
Right.
It's interesting. They came out in 1902, but they didn't flourish until after the Spanish flu. They went from 2 to 30 locations in 1922.
Well, there you go. So it's important.
So I created it with a technology company. So basically the model is that we're doing 32 flavors of dumplings 24 hours a day. The dumpling machine is going to be in the window so people can see it. And what it is now that I've pivoted from a counter where it's self-ordering kiosks, I pivoted to the locker system, or the automat system. So you take an order, it's going to come back and say, Joe Smith, 1:30, pick up locker 11 on your phone. You walk in at 1:30, you put your phone against the screen, and a barcode scans, your locker door opens. If you are ordering at the space, you put in your order on the self-ordering kiosk, the locker that you're assigned to will turn red. And then it'll turn yellow when it's close to being done. And when it turns green, you put your phone against the locker and the door opens. And you get your food and you go. And you don't see any employees. It's completely zero human interaction.
So you've probably learned a fair amount about delivery now that that's what you do.
We have.
Have you figured out any different ways of packaging food so that it travels better, that kind of thing?
Well, you know what? We've actually kept the environment in mind, because every dumpling order we'd have would be plastic. So someone ordering 7 dumplings would have this much plastic. So we changed to rice paper, which is obviously biodegradable. So those things we've learned, because we used to serve plastic. And that's all we do that would handle this, because it's very saucy, the food. And if you don't have a thick plastic with a thick top, it'll spill. Because the paper, the old traditional paper Chinese takeout, they don't work when it's too saucy. And you know what? You're going to lose with customer complaints. So we found this really cool packaging with rice paper. It clips on the side. We tape around it, and it's great. And that makes me feel a lot better. So we've learned stuff like that, protecting the environment.
And the sauce doesn't leak out?
No, it doesn't, because there's 2 clips on the bottom. It's like thick. It almost feels like the same material that when you go to like a takeout and you get like the 4 drinks in that little 4 compartment. It's right, that feel.
Yeah.
Like go to McDonald's and you have 4 sodas. It comes in that little, I don't know what kind of material it is. It's not cardboard. It's definitely not just straight up paper. But it's almost like cardboardish. And that's the material that reminds me of rice paper. It's very thick. It's durable. They have little clips on the bottom where they really locks it in. And then we put this long sticker around it to secure it. Is the old plastic version 100%? Absolutely. Is this 98%? Absolutely. But you know what? I really don't feel comfortable with so much plastic going out the door.
And that works for delivering steaks and stuff too?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Steaks are much easier. I'm talking about like saucy chicken dishes, like more of the Asian chicken dishes are very saucy.
And since it's rice paper, it's probably more breathable, so it kind of lets the moisture.
It really, obviously, I tested it myself. I loved it, and I did the shake test, you know, and yeah, it got a little moisture on the edges, but you know what? If that's the trade-off to helping the environment just a little bit, doing our part, I'll drop it 2% to make sure we don't put that kind of plastic out.
Makes sense to me. Well, Stratis Morfogen, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And thank you
for having me.
The workers and the first responders. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in person when the restaurant reopens.
Oh, I can't wait for that day.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thanks.